Ever get that totally frustrated feeling when you're house hunting? Like, scrolling endlessly online and just thinking, ugh, there has to be a better way.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what if I told you there might be?
Okay, I'm listening.
In this deep dive, we're going to check out a different kind of investment strategy, one that might just be the answer: mobile home investing. We've got some really cool sources for this one, like in-depth excerpts about what it takes to actually invest in mobile homes.
Interesting.
And we even have a list of all the big players in the industry.
You know, it's funny. When I hear mobile homes, I think of, like, trailers. But what's really interesting is this whole idea that they're having, like, a comeback.
Right.
It's not just about affordability anymore, though. That's definitely a huge part of it. The sources really highlight some pretty big improvements in the quality of mobile homes, too.
Totally. It's like busting all those old ideas I had about what a mobile home even is.
Yeah.
But, gotta be honest, this 50-point to-do list in one of our sources, RE19 mobile home investing, is a little intimidating, to say the least.
Oh, yeah. That definitely shows you right off the bat that this isn't some passive investment strategy. It's active, hands-on, requires real commitment. Before you even think about getting into it, you really need to ask yourself, are you ready for that?
Right. Okay, so maybe not for someone who wants to just sit back and watch the money roll in. But, some of these tasks are actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Like community engagement, it really makes you think that this isn't just about buying a property. It's about understanding a whole ecosystem, being a part of it.
Absolutely.
And then there's tenant education. What does that even mean?
Right.
Like, what kind of education do you need for mobile home living?
It's a really good question. I think it highlights something unique about this kind of investment. You're not just dealing with a property. You're dealing with people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
It might involve things like explaining the, park rules, going over responsibilities for maintenance, or even just addressing concerns that are really specific to mobile home living, things you wouldn't think about with a regular house.
Wow, it's like you need to be way more than just a landlord, it seems. Okay, so this list we have of the biggest players in the mobile home world, it's pretty diverse. We've got manufacturers like Cavco, and get this, they not only make the homes, but they also offer insurance.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a one-stop shop.
That Cavco model is worth looking into. For an investor, having everything all in one place, that could be a big advantage. Simpler process, maybe better deals, everything streamlined.
Right.
But it could also mean you have fewer choices, less control. It's a trade-off.
Yeah, for sure. Then there's Skyline Champion. They caught my eye because they also build modular homes. So what's the big difference between a modular home and a mobile home?
Yeah, people mix them up all the time, but there are some key differences. Both are built off-site in factories. The modular homes are built in sections, then transported to the site and put together on a permanent foundation. They usually have to meet tougher building codes, and they're generally seen as, well, more permanent than mobile homes.
Okay, so modular homes are like the fancy cousins of mobile homes.
Yeah, something like that.
What about Mobile Mini? That's the storage container company, right? What are they doing on a mobile home list?
Now, that's where things get really interesting. Mobile Mini being there shows how the lines are getting blurry between what we traditionally think of as mobile homes and, like, other temporary housing solutions. It's a bigger trend, this need for flexibility, adaptability in housing. And for you as an investor, it makes you think, what part of this changing market do I want to be in?
That's a great point. So many possibilities. Speaking of possibilities, the source highlights these big industry trends that are driving the interest in mobile homes, like increasing demand, a focus on building better quality homes, and this really interesting emphasis on community development.
Let's break those down because they're really crucial for understanding the potential of this market. The rising demand is directly tied to the housing affordability crisis that's going on. More and more people are struggling to afford traditional homes, so mobile homes are becoming a much more attractive alternative.
I see, yeah. But doesn't that create a problem? Like, if demand keeps going up, won't prices just go up too, and then we lose that affordability advantage?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's a classic supply and demand situation. Definitely something to watch closely as an investor. But we can't forget about the improvements in quality.
True.
We're not talking about your grandma's mobile home anymore.
So what are some of the actual, advancements that are making these homes so much more appealing to buyers these days?
Well, the source talks about this big push for energy efficiency. Things like better insulation, using more efficient appliances, even solar panels being built in. And we're seeing more modern designs too, both inside and out, with customizable floor plans and features you'd expect in a regular house.
Okay, so they're not just more affordable, they're becoming more desirable in their own right. I'm really intrigued by this whole emphasis on community that keeps coming up. The source talks about how developers are moving away from that old model of just putting a bunch of homes together and calling it a community.
Yeah, that's a key point. Today's mobile home communities are more and more focused on creating a sense of belonging, building spaces where people actually want to live. Think about amenities like clubhouses, swimming pools, playgrounds, even organized events and activities. It's changing the whole idea of what it means to live in a mobile home park.
And if you're an investor, understanding that shift seems pretty important. It's not just about the individual homes anymore, it's about creating a desirable experience, a whole lifestyle.
Absolutely. And it makes you ask a really interesting question. What would your ideal mobile home community look like if you were developing one? What values, what amenities would be most important?
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture. Now let's get down to the nuts and bolts of actually investing in mobile homes. Where do we even start?
Well, just like with any real estate, figuring out the financing is key. Got to know how you're going to pay for it all.
So is it like getting a regular mortgage, for a house?
Not quite. Lenders, a lot of times they see mobile homes as personal property, not real estate. And that can make a difference in the loan terms and interest rates you'll get.
Ah, I see.
You might have to look into lenders who specialize in mobile homes, or think about other options like personal loans, or maybe even seller financing.
So different paths, depending on the situation. But no matter what, I bet there's a ton of paperwork and due diligence stuff, right?
Absolutely. Remember that massive to-do list we talked about?
Yeah.
Inspecting the mobile home itself, that's super important, got to be thorough. And then you've got local zoning laws to figure out, making sure the title is clear, all that. Due diligence is a big deal with any real estate, but especially with mobile homes.
Okay. Yeah, it's becoming clear why this isn't just a passive investment. You really need to be ready to get your hands dirty.
Exactly. And one place where that really comes in is property management. Are you thinking of managing it yourself or hiring a company?
I'm kind of leaning towards doing it myself, at least to start. But honestly, I'm not even sure what all that involves. Is it just collecting rent checks every month, or is there more to it?
Oh, there's definitely more to it than that. Think about it. You're handling maintenance, repairs, screening tenants, dealing with any problems that come up in the community. All of that falls on you. Remember how the list mentioned building relationships with vendors?
Yeah.
You'll want to have reliable plumbers, electricians, all those kinds of people ready to go at a moment's notice.
Sounds like a lot to handle. Is it even realistic to manage a mobile home property yourself?
It can be, for sure. Lots of investors do it, especially when they're starting out. Gives you more control, and you can make more profit that way. But it also takes a lot of time and energy. If you're not ready for that, then maybe a professional property management company is the better way to go.
That's a good point, something to weigh out. So it seems like mobile home investing can be financially rewarding, but it's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes work and a willingness to learn as you go.
Yeah, you got it. It's not passive at all. But going back to those industry trends we talked about, the rising demand, the focus on quality, and the whole community-centered approach, those all point to a market that has some real solid potential for long-term gains, especially for investors who are in it for the long haul.
That's good to hear. It's making me see this as more than just an investment. It's like being a part of building the future of affordable housing.
I like that. That's a great way to look at it. And speaking of the future, have you thought more about what your ideal mobile home community would be like? We touched on it earlier, but I'm really curious to hear your vision.
Yeah, I'm really drawn to the idea of a community that's sustainable and also really socially vibrant. Imagine a place with solar panels on every roof, community gardens where people can grow their own food, maybe even a shared electric car program.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're thinking about the whole picture, the needs of the residents and the environment. What about the social aspect? How would you build a sense of community, make people feel like they belong?
Well, I'm a big believer in shared spaces and activities, so I definitely have a community center, with regular events, movie nights, potlucks, things like that, and outdoor areas where people can gather and hang out. It's all about giving people chances to connect and build relationships.
It sounds like you've really put a lot of thought into this. It's great to hear that passion for building a thriving community. But let's be real for a second. Actually building a community like that takes more than just good intentions, right? There are practical things to consider and challenges you'll face.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying it would be easy, but I do believe that with careful planning, collaborating with the residents, and committing to those sustainable practices, it can be done.
That's the right attitude.
Right.
And that brings up a really important point. Remember what the source said about getting feedback from residents, doing those surveys,
Yeah.
getting residents involved from the start, understanding what they need and want. That's essential for making a community that truly works.
Right. It's a partnership, not a one-person show. The community should reflect the values and the desires of the people who are actually going to be living there.
Exactly. This whole deep dive is about helping you think critically, not just about the money side of mobile home investing, but about the impact it has on people and the chance to build something really meaningful.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation. It's making me realize that mobile home investing is so much more than I thought it was at first.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to learn and explore. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll be looking at some case studies of successful mobile home communities. We'll break down different investment strategies, and we'll give you the tools to navigate this exciting market.
I can't wait. This is getting really good. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, talked about trends, challenges, even designed some pretty cool mobile home communities. Now I'm ready to get down to brass tacks. Like, what are the actual steps to actually get started with investing in mobile homes?
Well, the first thing is you got to figure out your investment strategy. What are you looking for? You want something hands-off, or are you ready to really dig in and manage a property?
That's a good question. I think I'd be more into a hands-on approach, at least at first. I like the idea of having more control, being involved in the decisions.
Yeah, a lot of new investors start that way. It's a good way to learn the ropes, get some experience. Remember that list we had of the biggest players?
Yeah,
Might be a good time to take a look at that.
you're right. I'm definitely curious to hear more about some of those companies, what they offer to investors.
Okay, well, let's start with KAFCO. Remember, they're the one-stop shop we talked about. They make the homes, they have retail locations, and they even do financing and insurance. If you're an investor who wants to keep things simple, maybe a little less risky, KAFCO could be worth checking out.
So if I went with a company like Kavco, I could potentially get everything I need all in one place.
Yeah, that's the idea. And that can be a big plus, especially if you're new to this. But it's important to think about the downsides too. Sticking with just one company like that might limit your choices when it comes to home styles, locations, maybe even prices.
Okay, good point. What are some other options if I want to look around more?
Well, another company on that list is Skyline Champion. They're one of the biggest manufacturers of mobile and modular homes in the whole country. And what's cool about them is they offer a really wide range of products at different prices.
So if I'm all about having more choices and flexibility, Skyline might be a better fit.
Could be. But as always, doing your research is key. You got to compare manufacturers, look at their track record, read reviews from other customers, all that. Make sure you feel good about their products and how they do business.
Makes sense. We've been talking a lot about investing in new mobile homes. What if I'm interested in buying one that's already there, in a park?
That's definitely another way to go, and often a more affordable way to get started. But it comes with its own things to consider. You'll want to inspect the home really carefully, look for any problems, and you'll also need to research the park itself.
Okay, what should I be looking for in a park? Like, what are the important things to check out?
Put yourself in the shoes of someone who's going to live there. What amenities does it have? How well maintained are the common areas? What are the park rules like? And really important, what's the community vibe? Does it feel good?
It sounds like finding the right park is just as important as finding the right home.
Totally. And remember that ideal community we were designing.
Yeah.
This is where you start putting those ideas into practice. Look for parks that match up with your values, what you want to see in a community.
All right, so let's say I found a park that seems good and a mobile home that checks all the boxes. What happens next?
It's pretty similar to any real estate deal. You make an offer, you negotiate the terms, and then you go through closing. But since mobile homes are often seen as personal property, the financing part might be a little different from buying a regular house.
Right, we talked about that. I might need to find special lenders or look into seller financing.
Exactly. And no matter what, through the whole process, due diligence is super important. Get that home inspected by a professional, read all the park rules carefully, understand your responsibilities as a landlord, and don't be shy about asking questions.
Sounds like the more you know, the better, right?
Absolutely. Knowledge is power in this market. The more you learn, the better decisions you'll make.
This deep dive has been amazing, really eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of mobile home investing.
And remember, this is just the beginning. There are tons of resources out there to help you learn more and connect with other investors. Don't be afraid to reach out to experts, go to events, join online groups, all that.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to dig deeper. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Yeah, just remember the people involved. You're not just investing in property, you're investing in people's homes, their lives. Go into this with integrity, treat people with respect, and have a real desire to make things better.
That's great advice. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge and insights with me.
My pleasure. I'm sure you'll do great in the mobile home investing world. You've got the passion and you're willing to learn. That's what it takes.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've busted some myths, explored some trends, and hopefully got some new ideas flowing. Who knows, maybe someday we'll be back here talking about your thriving mobile home community.
I love that. Remember, keep learning, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to dream big.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into mobile home investing. We'll catch you next time for another exciting exploration.